I get to ask the best question ever. Is it cake?
Is it cake? Is it cake? Is this
That show is so funny. When that guy was like, the most important thing when creating a taco shell that looks realistic is the texture.
Oh, really? What an insight. Cake.
Now, Naomi, why did you think this one was indeed cake?
Yeah, one guy was just like, it looked cakeish. And it was like, that's the end of the discussion
This doesn't
here.
need to be a show. Like, this concept is great as like a 20-second video.
Yeah, it was
on social
great.
media.
It was like,
it's like, show me the thing and then surprise me by cutting into it and revealing it's cake. I don't need a 30-minute talk show.
I know some
about
other
it.
things you could stick a machete into that'll make me watch.
You guys, we're talking about Netflix today.
We are talking about Netflix. Welcome back to CargoCult. I'm Naomi Caravani.
And I'm Michele Greenstein. Netflix is opening a restaurant?
Netflix is opening a restaurant. Sorry, I'm your new server. I'll be taking over your table since your last server, Carrie, was shit-canned.
You don't even really have the choice to order a dish. In fact, our algorithm has decided what you're most likely to enjoy.
Which you will have to discover is cake. It's just all cake. This hamburger,
oh
really
my
cake.
God. Netflix is opening a pop-up restaurant in LA called Netflix Bites.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to have food from famous TV chefs, basically. People from Iron Chef, from Chef's Table, which do you know what Chef's Table is?
A show.
I'm guessing it's a Netflix original.
It's a Netflix original.
This media tech company is getting into the culinary space, and they're calling it Netflix Bites.
Since you're totally complicit in the terms and conditions, everything that you eat and excrete in the restaurant will be proprietary information.
It's not yours anymore.
I think a restaurant could benefit from that information. Like if everybody's getting diarrhea that day.
Right.
We
need to pump up the fiber. Oh, also just want to let everyone know that Naomi is drinking Pedialyte right now. Or what is that? Is that an off-brand Pedialyte? Electrolyte.
It tastes like Gatorade.
Sodium lactate, potassium chloride, magnesium chloride, calcium chloride, citric acid, salt. Yellow number 5. No thanks.
You draw the line at yellow number 5?
No.
What about yellow number 4?
I'm drawing the line at that amalgamation. Okay, so Netflix Bites is another attempt by the streaming company to marry its content with immersive, one-of-a-kind fan experiences. A long list of culinary legends will serve up dishes at the limited pop-up shop.
Yeah, well, it's good that they're getting into a business that has like an 80% failure rate.
What, restaurants?
So, yeah, restaurants. Just pumping money into something just for the hell of it. When they're not paying their writers, and if you notice the writer's strike, favorite company to make fun of and to target is Netflix. You know, the parade of writers with their little funny signs outside of Netflix headquarters. That's the most popular place to protest.
Yeah, they really, the New York Times even ran a headline in May called "The Striking Writers Find Their Villain, Netflix."
And they want some assurance that AI won't be used because, again, AI is just copying a million things. And so writers' work will be copied and then made into AI productions. But Netflix did just do an event, a live streaming event yesterday, to like announce all their forthcoming series, and like none of those series are happening right now. They're just like, Lily Collins was like, guess what, in Emily in Paris season 4 I'm going to Italy.
While Emily's heart will always remain true to Paris, her life takes some unexpected twists this season. Don't be surprised to find her on a Roman holiday.
Shame on Lily Collins for crossing the picket line. But yeah, so executive pay packages got rejected by the Netflix board recently because...
Oh no, poor Ted.
I know.
Poor Ted Sarandos.
Poor Ted Sarandos.
He had to cancel his gala events.
Netflix proposed executive pay packages for 2023 included up to $40 million for Sarandos. And then there's also Greg Peters, who could have gotten up to $34.6 million. So Netflix shareholders voted and they were like, no, maybe not the right time to do all that, given this writer's strike. Another reason that the writers really have their eye on Netflix is because Netflix did pioneer kind of the streaming way of delivering content to people through the internet. And with streaming, residual payments are not just based on the number of times an episode is viewed anymore, like it used to be when we were just talking about broadcast TV. But now there's sometimes a fixed annual fee that just takes into account the number of subscribers that a platform has, and the writers are saying that's not fair. That's
and it's also like they're
all.
like, what are they counting as a view? It's like 1.8 seconds, so it's like you can't get paid for that.
Is it 1.8 seconds?
I think I saw that it's like 1.8 seconds. So it's basically like when they're
a
showing
click.
You the trailers, not even a click. You hover.
Oh, the hover counts as a view?
I think so.
No fucking
we
way.
don't know.
Netflix famously, for many years, kept its data close to its chest. So
When did they start reporting data?
2021, I want to say, because I'm picturing the office I was in at the time, but let me look it up. Yes, 2021. Netflix begins reporting viewer numbers for its biggest hits. I'm reading it. So ever since Netflix leapt into original content with House of Cards in 2013, the company has largely kept hidden just how popular any given program was. Netflix doesn't run ads, so the company doesn't need to report ratings to attract brands in the way that broadcast and cable TV does. Previously, Netflix had reported how many subscribers watched the first 2 minutes of a program. Traditional television ratings, typically provided by Nielsen, measure viewership during an average minute of a show. Box office sales and Nielsen TV ratings, the traditional gauge of success in Hollywood, do not apply to Netflix, making it harder to determine what success means in streaming. Often, even the actors and producers involved would not know how popular their movie was, a source of frustration for the entertainment industry.
And then when they're reporting subscriber growth, also they've been reporting about millions of people have signed up this year and blah, blah, blah. Well, they're counting people in Southeast Asia mostly, and those are like $3-4 subscriptions. So that it's not even real money that's coming back in.
Yeah. I feel like nothing's really that good on Netflix anymore. I used to Netflix and chill all the time, and now I HBO and chill.
Now when, I sit down with my boyfriend and watch Netflix, it's like I immediately get tense and I'm like, oh, we're gonna fight about something. And, he just wants to pull up like some true crime documentary, something about a massacre. And I'm like, I'm not really feeling massacre. I'm not feeling massacre vibes right now.
I'm not feeling like a massacre tonight. Maybe Chinese?
Yeah.
Want to do Thai?
It's just so frustrating to find something. There's all these like very, low grade documentaries. The Arnold Schwarzenegger doc that just came out. It's very limited. It's not at all critical of him. It's just like glorifying him.
This isn't unique to Netflix, but like any big media operation based in the US is going to be kind of propaganda-y. Like they had that Netflix documentary about Epstein, and I think it was called Filthy Rich. And like it was based on a book by like a close associate of Bill Clinton, and it's like Bill Clinton was on the right. So it's like, is this really the story we want to tell? But like the Epstein story was painted in a way where it's just like, oh, this one rich financier, he was so rich and definitely wasn't connected to any larger network that anyone should start investigating. He was just this one weirdo who loved to have sex with kids
and collect a library of videotapes.
But yeah, did you see the Arnold Schwarzenegger thing, or you just heard about
it? No, just people are talking about it. I saw some articles about it, but
I will say I did watch something on Netflix recently that I actually liked, and I was really surprised how much I liked it. It's called Beef. It's like a comedy, I guess. Really good.
I couldn't get into it.
Yeah, well, you're not Asian.
Yeah.
I watched it as a political statement. I didn't even enjoy it.
Yeah.
I just had to tell the algorithm that it was being played all the way. I actually had it on mute.
It's like Asians not being Asian. That's what it's about.
What do you mean?
Just not living up to stereotypes or...
You wanted them to be like a sushi chef. You're like, I'll get into it if he's a kung fu master.
If the 1-year-old kid is like doing multiplication tables, I'm there.
But yeah, then there's also all that dumb shit. Like there's the documentary about the Hype House, which is the TikTok content house. Hype House belongs on TikTok. Like we don't need a Netflix documentary about it.
Yeah, it's the whole idea is that people will come if celebrities are there.
Right.
You don't need to have good content. You just need to have faces people recognize.
Right. And at this stage, like now that almost everyone and their mother has a Netflix
account.
A Netflix account. It's like, what are you going to do? Leave? Like, they know
Yeah.
we're not leaving. Even
They
though it's
know-
bad, we're not leaving. There's another documentary on Netflix that glorifies one of our favorite American tech billionaires, Bill Gates.
And then there's like Obama, the docuseries entitled Working, where he follows an Uber Eats employee, and it's like, you realize that you were like employing Uber execs and like all these tech companies that transformed labor into having these gig economy jobs, but see how hard they worked and you feel bad for them. And it's like he's just like doing some kind of weird performative penance.
I mean, Susan Rice, who worked under Obama, was the head of the National Security Council, left Netflix's board recently to join the Biden administration.
Of course. Biden needs to know, is it cake? But yeah, have you been affected by the password crackdown? I don't know. It's not happening. I have my boyfriend's family's account.
I have my ex-boyfriend's family's account.
Isn't that beautiful?
No, I'm kidding,
it's like an extended family of ex-girlfriends.
And actually, for years, I shared a Netflix account with like my best friend, and then she slowly started adding her friends onto it, like people I didn't know, and
I don't like the vibes.
But the cost for me like went down. But like every few months, I would log on and like see a new profile. Who the fuck is Stacy? But now I have my exes. But we shared it, so you know.
It's only right that you keep custody of the Netflix account.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm not paying for it.
Yeah.
I paid in other ways.
Remember in 2017 when Netflix tweeted, "Love is sharing a password. Now what's love?
Yeah.
Is it cake?"
So we didn't even explain this, but Netflix has this amazing, groundbreaking, spectacular, never been done before game show called Is It Cake, where people cut into various objects to find out if they are indeed
they're purses,
cake.
Sometimes they're bacon, egg, and cheeses.
Right. Sometimes they're cans of Coke. Sometimes they're couches.
Yeah.
But here's my thing. It should be called Is It Fondant? Because it's
Fondant.
not... Oh, really?
I mean, I guess people in America would say fondant.
Anyway, I've never said this before. I've only ever seen it written.
Fondant.
But it might as well be a show about Play-Doh.
Yeah.
Or like creating things out of clay, or like just, you know what I'm saying? Because the actual cake, when they cut into it, there's like a sometimes 4-inch layer of fondant between the cake and the exterior.
And that's what's like
and
moldable
that's what's creating
and
the design.
and that's what's creating the taco texture.
Exactly. That's what's creating the illusion, and that's what's impressive. And it's like the cake is almost tertiary. You bake a cake and then you cover it in fondant and make the fondant whatever shape you want. And
Michele
you
needs
paint
to be
the
a
fondant,
contestant.
and it's like it has nothing to do with cake anymore. So anyway,
Way
I
to
get
take
it though.
the fun out of Is It Cake. I like that he uses a machete.
Well, yeah, because it's fucking thick fondant. If it were cake, you could use a bread knife.
It's hard to find something that you like on Netflix. I did watch one of the most expensive movies, The Gray Man, starring Ryan Gosling, about a CIA agent who goes rogue in a corrupt CIA situation where assassins are sent after him, and at one point, like, he's on the phone with the person leading his assassins, and he's like, "I want you dead," and it's like so like explicit. You're like, don't you want to dance around that a little bit?
You want to make an omelet? You got to kill some people.
It's like made for 10-year-olds.
It's made for 10-year-olds, but they're like, obviously most of the budget went to just getting stars on the movie, and that's what Netflix is really spending its money on now, because it's like tightening the belt a little bit.
Yeah, and also it's like a lot of what Netflix calls success is like someone clicked on a title. Once that happens, it's like, who cares if they actually enjoyed it? So Netflix co-founder Reed Hastings, pretty interesting character.
We think of ourselves like alchemists. We take in money and out comes joy.
Reed Hastings, like, really, he's one of those billionaires that...
But he's a Democrat.
Therefore what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Therefore he takes Susan Rice as opposed to Mike Pompeo onto his board. But yeah, Reed Hastings is like one of those quote unquote philanthropists, one of those like corporate millionaires who really want to shape the minds of children. He has lobbied heavily for the overthrow of publicly elected school boards to be replaced by private charter councils.
Mm-hmm. And some would say that Netflix is monopoly, but Reed Hastings would say local schools are monopolies.
I love this hot take of his.
And yeah, Reed Hastings basically loves to pour his money into charter schools. So there are Netflix academies out there, basically funded by Reed Hastings. Aspire charter schools are heavily funded by Hastings. They exist in Louisiana and in California and in Tennessee. And in Louisiana in particular, like 80% of public schools have been charter schools.
Aspire is the name of the company?
Aspire is the name of the charter network.
Has anyone been able to watch season 2 of House of Cards yet? Okay. So politics is a tough business. There's no question about it. Compared to what we see in House of Cards, the life that we live is not as difficult. Let's keep that in perspective. All of you are warriors every day as leaders of charter schools, teachers of charter schools, advocates for charter schools. In contrast, my life's incredibly easy. When you think about it, I go to some board meetings, I write some checks, people are nice to me. I mean, it's very, very easy, I gotta tell you.
And so Reed Hastings says protections for teachers are a natural outcome of a local monopoly, meaning the school board.
Wait, so he doesn't want protections for teachers?
He does not want protections for teachers. He does not want tenure for teachers.
Oh.
And he's like, Louisiana is like the ideal place to operate because the teachers union in Louisiana is pretty weak and teachers already don't have tenure. So it was an ideal place to just inject charter schools into.
I think my favorite fact about Reed Hastings, though, is that he once wanted to create a computer mouse, but for your foot instead of your hand.
He got to start, he was really just a transformative genius. Yeah, the foot mouse never took off. I guess it's good if you don't have any hands.
Yeah, inclusive king.
Yeah, and then he went on to do like some kind of debugging software. And then got into Netflix. He was already a millionaire by the time he created Netflix.
Yeah, he was. So Hastings got his master's in computer science from Stanford. He founded a company called Pure Software, which eventually merged with a company called Atria. And that merger made him the president and CEO of Pure Atria, the new company. Pure Atria was eventually bought by Rational Software, and that acquisition is what made Reed Hastings a millionaire. In fact, he seeded Netflix up with some of this money. The other co-founder of Netflix is named Marc Randolph. He's actually descended directly from Edward Bernays. He's his nephew or great nephew or something, often referred to as the father of PR, the father of public relations. Marc had his early career in the mail order division of this company. I forget the name of the company, sorry. That's actually not important. The point is that he learned a lot about the mail order business, and he actually started to redesign this company's approach and make it more effective and efficient. Those are synonyms, so I'll just say more effective. And then he also designed their computer processing software when the company decided to switch into the digital world, when they moved to computers. So he learned a lot about the mail order business, which makes a lot of sense because remember, Netflix started as a DVD mail order business before it became the streaming giant that it is today.
Yeah, and I used to subscribe to the DVD mail order business.
Did you really?
I am that old.
Damn, she's really showing her age right now.
But yeah, I would get all of these cool French films, but they recently shut it down.
Come September 29th, Netflix will finally end its DVD by mail business.
Now it's going to become harder and harder to get a foreign film or something a little bit more obscure or old because a lot of these streaming services kind of trimmed down their libraries, and the DVD business was one of the only ways to get it. Now you'll have to buy the DVD. You'll go. So now we've gone so far. We've engineered ourselves into a place where we have to go back to the 90s where we're like buying DVDs or renting them.
Yeah. Although, I mean, like, yeah, you can buy them, but now you're buying them on Amazon as opposed to going to your local record store or whatever. Exactly. Not that I'm promoting that, but that is what we will likely do. But if you can, please go to your local record store.
If you can't find it on a torrent site.
So Marc Randolph worked at a few companies before ending up at Pure Atria, which was Reed Hastings' company. And so eventually Marc and Reed team up. I don't know like how much of this is true, but the story goes that like, Marc was more of a people person and Reed was more of a numbers guy. They team up to create Netflix, and Marc actually stepped down like pretty soon after he stepped down from CEO in 1999 and was replaced by Reed, and he turned to product development and then left the company totally in 2003, a year after Netflix IPO'd. He's fine, you know, he got a lot of money out of that IPO, and he sits on many other boards. He's doing his thing. And Reed actually stayed with the company until very recently. He only left a few months ago in January of 2023. So the origin story, a commonly passed around origin story of Netflix that originated with Reed Hastings. He once said that Blockbuster charged him a $40 late fee when he was renting Apollo 13, and this made him so annoyed and angry that he decided to create Netflix.
Gotta see what happens to Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
I rewound it even when I brought it back.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Don't worry about it.
But Marc Randolph has a different version of the story. Basically, in 1997, Marc and Reed were both about to be out of a job at Pure Atria because of the Rational Software acquisition of the company. And he says that the two kind of put their heads together, they got along, and they were like, we want to build the Amazon.com of something. So remember, I mean, now Amazon sells you everything, but back then Amazon was basically the online seller of books. So Amazon was the Amazon of books. They wanted to be the Amazon of something else. And this also,
so they just picked movies by random. Like they could have done you know, tires.
So this story is a little bit more plausible than, you know, Reed's late fee story, because Netflix didn't even do the no late fee thing until about a year and a half in. So it's probably just a nice marketing story to like give a fuck you to Blockbuster.
Yeah.
So Netflix is born. Remember, this is the early days of online shopping. So the Netflix team had to build out all the basic functions. And of course, they used Oracle as the foundation for their back end. Surprise, surprise. But yeah, they needed to database everything. They need to find out, you know, what titles are available. How many copies do we have? They made a search tool where you could look up movies based on actors, based on directors. They created a ratings feature. And then even the concept of ringing up transactions on the internet was relatively new. So they had to build all this stuff. So it was the early days of online shopping, but it was also the early days of the DVD format. This format was brand new. We were still in the VHS era, right? And for any kids out there listening, a VHS
it's 2 spools of tape. You have to rewind it.
But anyway, so DVD is obviously way better to ship than a VHS, way thinner. But not a lot of people had DVD players, so, you know, from a movie studio perspective, there wasn't really a rush. There was no reason for them to put movies on DVDs because no one had them. And then from the customer perspective, it's like, why am I going to buy a player if most of these movies are on VHS? So DVD, the technology was out there, but it wasn't really popular yet.
Definitely in this house, we have a couple VHS tapes I really want to throw away.
Oh, sick. Are they like home videos or are they like movies?
We digitized everything. If you don't have your family shit digitized, you got to run out and do that right now.
Anyway, after feature testing and library building, Netflix finally goes live in 1998. And actually, a funny point to make is that on launch day, Reed Hastings came in and some employees like didn't even know who Reed Hastings was. They were like, who the fuck is this guy? Because Marc Randolph was really the one like actually there building the company.
He's like, I'm the numbers guy.
Yeah. Well, Reed was pretty much the money. In the early days when they were actually building out the site and everything, like Marc Randolph was the one in the trenches with the people and Reed Hastings was just like, did the check clear? Okay, you guys good? All right, fine. So Netflix goes live in 1998 and it's obviously different than the Netflix we know now. It was basically you rent DVDs for a week and different DVDs had different rental fees. So like some would be $4, some would be $5. Maybe you got a deal if you rented 4 or more, but there wasn't like a monthly subscription. It was like per DVD, there was a rental fee. The servers crashed almost immediately because so many people went to Netflix.com at once. And the printer for the return labels jammed because so many new orders were flying in.
You can never count on a printer. Even today, you can't.
Yeah, you'd think we'd have nailed that technology down by now. So yeah, in 1998, Marc and Reed actually considered selling Netflix to Amazon. They went and met with Bezos, and according to Marc, they were offered something between $14 million and $16 million. And apparently he thought that was reasonable, but Reed didn't want to sell, so they didn't. And
in 2000, he did try to sell to Blockbuster he was like, $50 million, it's a great price. And then Blockbuster
Turned him down.
and that's the history of Blockbuster 10 years later.
Yeah, it's kind of funny though,
Bankrupt.
because Blockbuster is this crazy story of they were the movie rental king, right? And then bankruptcy. And now you're hearing some people, I guess, compare the two companies. Where like Netflix was really on top for a long time, and now the question has come up, like, are we seeing the decline
Is
of Netflix?
the new Blockbuster?
Let's talk about it.
Well, Netflix is already in our home, so
Right.
Blockbuster didn't make its way in. It just got into our strip malls.
Yeah, plus if Netflix expands into the restaurant business, they can just kill the whole movie thing. I mean,
Yeah.
movies are dead. Society, if Netflix sold to Blockbuster.
Yeah. Yeah, we would have never known about all these serial killers. We just
Yeah, I don't know. There's also an interesting angle on serial killers, which is that most of them were trained by the CIA. But that's a story for another time. The
Oh,
big
boy.
ones, the famous ones. Obviously, there are murderers
or they
out
were
there,
part of the
but-
MK Ultra.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Netflix bills itself as a tech company. So it's no longer a movie studio. It's no longer a television station. So it can get away with things that TV stations, TV channels, and movie studios cannot get away with. So they can pay their writers very little. They say, well, you're working for a tech company. You're basically like an Uber driver of writers. You're not going to get paid the same amount of residuals, which is like every time a movie plays, you get a certain amount of money. That's not going to happen with streaming. So Netflix was the real pioneer of paying writers very little in the streaming age. And they also created these mini rooms. So you have writers working totally separate from production. Very few writers would be in charge of like mapping out a whole series. Whereas you would have 12 writers doing that usually. Now you have 4 overworked writers, and still the content comes out. So what do they care? And you do see like wild spending between 2007 and, you know, about 2020. Netflix is pouring money into prestigious projects. You could say that Stranger Things and The Crown, those are vestiges of Netflix's old spending. Like they were pouring money into these series, and now you can see a lot more cancellations, and the first things to go are going to be the, you know, diverse people. Those shows were the first to go. So Tuca and Birdie was one of those. Sense8, one of those series, I never watched them, that basically cancel after the second season. And what Netflix likes to say is that, oh, the algorithm wasn't working for them. But really, they are the algorithm, and they like to just blame the algorithm.
They can decide to bury a show. They can decide to promote a show a lot on the homepage. And these decisions, obviously, they're tech-driven, but they're ultimately made by people.
It's really the executives making the decision. And it's just, I guess it's just a coincidence that TV series really get expensive after the second season when you have to, when the rates for talent will go up and the rates for writers will go up. So they're like, oh, the algorithm said that people don't like this. But really, the algorithm is just showing things that are popular, are like nationally popular most of the time.
Yeah, and there's actually a really funny clip from Barry. Not to plug a Netflix competitor, this is on HBO Max, which is now
a small
Max,
business,
by the way. But where they're like, sorry, the algorithm didn't like it, and I'll just insert the clip here. Laugh as if it's funny. So good. Anyway, okay, I'll actually insert it here.
We are canceling the show.
What? Why?
Well, the algorithm felt it wasn't hitting the right taste clusters.
Taste clusters. It's been 12 hours. Don't we need time to get word of mouth?
Oh, the algorithm takes word of mouth into account, but it considers other things too. For instance, if viewers see someone eating dessert within the first 2 minutes of the episode, they almost always finish the entire season.
So this is what happens. I mean, this is not a phenomenon unique to Netflix, but this is what happens when you start mixing the creative process in with profit incentives, because it's like, well, the more expensive a show is to renew for another season, it gets taken into, or how expensive a show is gets taken into account when deciding whether or not to renew it, as opposed to, do people like it? As opposed to, you know, is it good, right? Now it's about, weighing how many people watch it with how much it costs. And there's so much data now where they can get really granular about what makes sense from a profit perspective. Netflix is constantly pumping out originals that just end after the second season because they don't want to raise the rates for people.
Yeah, and sometimes when you're searching through Netflix, you just like see these series that you never knew existed. I did not know Hype House existed, even though I would never watch that.
So much content.
There's just, there's so much. I spent the whole week with my eyes peeled looking at horrible Netflix content.
Thank you for your service.
We think of ourselves like alchemists. We take in money, and out comes joy.
Part of their business model was using that 0% interest rate. So after the 2008 crash, there was an injection of money into these banks, and they would throw money at tech companies that would be high risk, high reward. And the most popular stocks for 10 years, Netflix was part of those most popular stocks, along with Google, along with Apple. And now it's fallen out of favor since 2022. But they used all this easy money around Wall Street to basically throw money and outbid other players like Paramount and Warner Brothers for certain films. And it was such a big amount of money that they were, of course, unable to sustain it.
Right.
And now, as they're trimming, all the more creative content is getting trimmed, whereas a Marvel movie is much more easy to invest in, or the anime live action. Like, they're going to stick with IP that's established that they can guarantee money from. So,
yeah, there's like a certain segment of the population that will watch anything Marvel. Yeah, so calling themselves a tech company conveniently allows them to get around certain laws.
Exactly, yeah. And so there was this 1948 court decision, U.S. versus Paramount, that tried to break up these movie studio monopolies after World War II. Movie studios basically had exclusive contracts with directors and actors. They owned movie theaters. They required movie theaters to buy their whole slate of films. So say you want like only The Little House on the Prairie, you also have to buy this like stupid spaghetti western that is not going to do very well when it's released. And it basically shut out small movie theaters from the movie business. And the U.S. said, okay, enough is enough. Movie theaters can no longer be owned by production companies or movie studios. But now we're seeing an era of deregulation since not only Netflix, but, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, they're also calling themselves tech companies. And they're also basically production and distributors. And we're seeing these monopolies, oligopolies, you could say, solidify. Whether or not we're going to see regulation in the future is to be seen.
Yeah, so calling themselves a tech company does allow them to get around certain laws and regulations. But to be fair, it also is kind of a tech company because the content is delivered over the internet, which again was groundbreaking for its time. Netflix was able to piggyback on the telecoms revolution that helped deliver super fast broadband, and the distribution of all this movie and TV was effectively funded by the telecom investment in household broadband subscriptions. So in order to, get a new Netflix customer, you didn't need to convince them to like get a dish set or a top box or whatever the fuck you used to need to watch TV. Like all you needed was an internet connection and a web browser, and you already had the telecom companies fueling that distribution, right? Also, Netflix is a tech company because of its heavy reliance on data, on user data. This is like their secret sauce. But because the content was digitally delivered, whenever you're logged in as a user, you're giving Netflix data to work from. So they can see your viewing patterns, your behavior. They're
going to think I love Is It Cake.
Yeah, true.
We take in money, and out comes joy.
Yeah, your algorithm's probably fucked up because of everything you watched this week.
Yes.
You watched Hype House.
Man.
You watched 3 episodes of Hype House.
Oh my God, I cannot erase it from my brain.
You watched Is It Cake? But yeah, because you can monitor viewing patterns and behavior in real time, you don't need to just like wait for a handful of film critics anymore. So this explosion of data is what made Netflix more of a tech company. And this is also, I guess, like why a lot of content seems to lack artistry. Again, this is not unique to Netflix, but when you reduce artistic things to data, you're going to get
reality shows and Love is Blind.
Right. And you know, we're not here to evangelize
judge people.
Like, we're not here to like.
We're not here to judge you. If you like Real Housewives, good for you. I wish I had that kind of joy in my life.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I just don't.
I think it's mostly miserable people that like to watch reality shows. And I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that more as an indictment of late stage capitalism. Honestly, like, I haven't given it a chance. Like, maybe if I watched some of it, I would fall in and get addicted and keep watching. But I'm such a judgmental bitch that I never gave myself the chance to even dip my toe in that stuff. But probably I would like it if I did.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what I'm afraid of.
I think it is. Yeah, you do have a parasocial relationship with the people on reality shows. Like my friend who was watching Jersey Shore, like she was just like, oh, look how well this guy's doing. And
I'm proud of him. We've seen him come so far.
It's like they're all your children.
Yeah, and I'm better than those people. I only have parasocial relationships with podcasters.
Me? We are in the same room. Can you believe it? Like, this is so outdated.
Yeah, they can believe it because they're like, actually, I'm hearing a lot of feedback. They're like, yeah, I can hear Michele on Naomi's mic. But yeah, I mean, you know, Netflix originals had some hits. There's Squid Game, House of Cards. But those huge hits are kind of outliers when you think of how much original content Netflix has been pumping out. But that's what they're banking on, you know? Mm-hmm. They're just trying to, it's a numbers game for them, right? This is not about the fucking artistic process. It's a numbers game. You pump a lot of shit out and then some of it's going to be a hit and those hits are going to pay the bills.
Yeah. And that is the business model. They're trying to convince investors that, hey, if we spend so much money making this content, we have so much more content, so much more celebrities in our content than everyone else. We're going to push other people out of the game.
And the recommendation algorithm, it's pretty fine-tuned. You know how, like, when you go on your Netflix homepage, there's thumbnails? So those thumbnails could be different. She nodded, by the way. This is an audio episode, bitch. Yeah, so, like, them choosing what the cover art is based on your behavior as a user. Netflix uses aesthetic visual analysis I'm going to read this thing. This is on a Cornell University blog. If you log into a friend's Netflix account, you'll notice that the thumbnails for the movies and TV shows listed on their account differ from yours. Netflix does this intentionally, and it's an effort to retain its customers' attention and interest. Okay, this is clearly written by a student. Netflix estimates not only attention, but also interest. Netflix estimates that they only have up to 90 seconds to grab your attention before you switch to something else. So they find creative ways to grab your attention. And one of the most successful methods to do this is thumbnails. For example, during a 1-hour episode of Money Heist, there are roughly 86,000 possible frames from the show that Netflix could choose to use as a thumbnail. So how do they go about this process?
The most nudity.
Well, yeah. If you, as a user, if Naomi Caravani, if their data shows that you've been watching a lot of things with nude scenes, then yeah.
I don't watch things with nude scenes.
Too late. The rumor's already out there. Netflix uses aesthetic visual analysis, also known as AVA, to pick the best thumbnails to display to the user. AVA is a set of algorithms that sift through movies and shows on Netflix to identify the best frames to use as thumbnails. If you like Aubrey Plaza, they're going to show you 30 Rock with Aubrey Plaza's face. If you like Amy Poehler, they're going to show you 30 Rock with Amy Poehler's face. So they have different
thumbnails for the same shows.
Yes.
Interesting.
Many different thumbnails.
Pretty much everything we do is a recommendation algorithm, including even things like the box art and the hero images. So it's a pretty central part of everything.
That's the key. The user can find things easier, faster, or if they can find also something that...
How about they find an employee who could speak English?
Yeah, what's with all these fucking Europeans?
We are taking over the world. And Netflix is reintroducing ads where they promised us we were going to get ad-free stuff. I hate advertisements. I mute them. I get like violently angry.
Yeah, I would honestly pay up to $50 a month to keep YouTube Premium, no ads.
Yeah. I have YouTube Premium.
Me too.
Sure.
I think it's $10 a month right now.
Like Don't tell YouTube.
It's $120 a year, I think, or something like that. $119. They could raise that a lot before I let go of it. Also, guys, I forgot to mention I was on Netflix.
Get the fuck. I can't believe you have a Netflix credit and I don't. It's so pathetic.
I don't know if it counts as a credit. I'm literally on there for like 0.5 seconds. It was that documentary about the college admission scandal. And in the beginning, they show like a compilation of news
This
anchors.
is a woman who didn't finish college. Can you imagine? Look at this, parents.
Stop exposing me.
Now she works in social media for the rest of her life. But really, those are the only jobs available, so...
You're exposing me to our audience. Like, they're supposed to think of me as, like, learned and credentialed. And
Oh, yeah. Cut that out.
I'm an expert.
We both
I'm a
finished college. I have finished college in fewer years.
Naomi has a fucking master's degree. Also,
It was the third master's program I went to, by the way. Yeah, isn't that nuts?
I also want to clarify, I'm not a college dropout. I'm on a gap year. And it's your small-minded concept of what a year is.
Sometimes it's a decade.
That's limiting you, yeah.
But I mean, I like studied archaeology in college. It's like literally.
That's totally fake.
I was like
And
picking
honestly,
trash. I was learning how to pick trash.
She has a degree in digging.
I found a lot of rocks and a scorpion in the Jordanian desert. No, we don't need to get into this. Let's we're never gonna finish this
I'm kind
episode.
of interested.
I
we'll
feel
talk
like I'll
about
do
your
it.
academic career another day.
No, dude. I have fun stories, but I'm sure there will be a place where it's like related.
Okay, perfect.
Remember Netflix used to have Friends on it? And
Yeah.
Seinfeld.
And The Office.
Wait.
Seinfeld is still on it.
Oh, okay. It used to have Friends. It used to have The Office.
Yeah,
But then
I mean, the way that it rose to prominence was through a lot of these library deals, because at the time, a lot of these studios didn't have their own streaming service. So yeah, why not sell their content to Netflix, right?
Mhm.
But now they're like, wait, we could also host this on our own streaming service. Why would we, give all this ammunition to the competition? But you're bringing up a really important idea, which is that Netflix was really the first streamer. There was virtually no competition during its rise in the 2000s, like from 2000 to 2010. And that's really how they got so big. And actually, it's funny because Blockbuster could have caught up with Netflix if they wanted to. They probably could have, because they had this like total access feature, which would have been a competitor to Netflix. But instead, this new CEO came in and he kind of like decided to double down on the traditional DVD sales and killed the total access product. And so, yeah, Netflix had pretty much no competitors when it was growing at the beginning. The only
and also, it was the golden age of tech when all these investors were throwing money at Uber and all these kind of tech companies that were promising to revolutionize something.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the beauty of getting all that investor money, because you don't even need to turn a profit in the beginning. You can just focus on growing your customer base, growing your library. In fact, 1999, Netflix closed the year with a $28 million loss. So it's not like making money, but it's all about, hey, one day we're going to start making a ton of money once we get everyone watching Netflix. So anyway, like I was saying, Netflix had virtually no competitors when it was growing at the beginning. And the only real opponent was Redbox at the time, which...
Who box?
Not to be confused with Whatbox, which was one of the Google early names of the Google search product.
Which, remember, they said sounded like Webbox. A little bit too much, but then it's like, where was Sergey Brin's head in Webbox?
So yeah, Netflix had virtually no competitors, but eventually Amazon creates a streaming product. They launch Amazon Instant Video in 2006. You can purchase something, you can watch it whenever you want, however many times you want to, as long as you did purchase it. And at first, this is not really a competition for Netflix because Netflix wasn't offering purchases, but eventually, that grew into Amazon Prime Video, and we know that it would be.
And the rest is history. They poured $100 million into Lord of the Rings series that got pretty much no that got pretty much.
I didn't know that Amazon did a Lord of the Rings series.
Eyeballs. See, you didn't even know about it.
I'm not the target demographic for that though. But yeah, I mean, Prime Video is huge now, and I think Amazon bought something. I think it bought MGM. Yes. Okay. Yes. I'm right. Okay. Amazon closes its $8.5 billion acquisition of MGM. That's March 2022. So, I mean, whatever. We'll talk about Amazon another time. But basically, all the giants are eating each other, and they're all, there's going to be one media company in like 5 years. I think for most of my life, like we would all joke about how like, six conglomerates own all of the media in the US, but I think now it's 5 with the merger of Viacom, CBS, Take-Two, because they did that once already and then they split up and now they're back
5
together.
companies, but you need still like 16 subscriptions to see everything your friends are talking about, and it's like I just don't have that kind of money, so
Right.
Sorry, Ted Lasso, I'm not watching.
Right. But before there were all these different streaming services, there was only Netflix. But the first real competition to Netflix in the streaming space came from NBC Universal and News Corp. These two companies announced Hulu in 2007 and launched it a year later in 2008. And that was the official debut of Hulu, March 2008. This is a big deal, right? Because Hulu was the first time there was a real threat to Netflix, because Hulu had the advantage of kind of being this offshoot of these huge conglomerates with their own content studios, with all of this content that they wouldn't have to, go shop around for. There's like all the Fox brands, like
FX, like all the
20th Century Studios, which was then 20th Century Fox, and NBC had all of its shows.
They got a lot of great shows. FX is one of my favorites.
Oh yeah. Really, I like FX too. And then also Disney Studios announced a stake in Hulu in 2009. So you have all of these like major owners of content and all of this great IP coming up with the first competition to Netflix called Hulu. Netflix wasn't part of a larger conglomerate like Hulu, so it was kind of at a disadvantage. Content studios, all these companies are probably going to favor sending their content to Hulu, who they have this partnership with, than to Netflix.
Didn't they start with ads?
Yeah, they did start with ads.
So they were like, yeah, we're gonna try to make money a little bit in the beginning, because
Hulu still has an ad tier. Yeah, it annoyed people because it's like, okay, well, why am I paying for this? But it also kind of made sense because it was kind of a different product than Netflix, whereas like, at least in the early days before Netflix had all of these originals that would just, drop a whole season at once. With Netflix, you would kind of have to wait to get new episodes. Like if something aired on TV, then maybe a year, 2, 3 years later, it would get on Netflix. Whereas Hulu, you could watch something air on TV, or if you missed it, you could watch it like 24 hours later on Hulu. Like it would have a premiere. And I think they also did this thing where it was like, so like let's say there's 5 episodes out in a season, there are all 5 of those are out, and then like the 6th one comes out, and then the first one is no longer available to watch. So you almost have to like keep up with it,
get people to sign in and
on a regular basis.
Yeah,
and then it's like almost like basically like TV again, because like you're watching ads and you gotta catch it when it airs, kind of. Even though the window's bigger.
And Netflix was like, we don't need ads because we have all this investor money. And we just make subscribers pay as little as, so they believe they're getting something of quality. And they didn't really need to turn a profit. But Hulu went in there and was like, we're gonna need ads. They had the foresight. And then Netflix was like, no, we'll never have ads. And now they're okay, we're gonna have ads.
But also, I mean, Hulu, in another sense, didn't need to turn a profit super quickly because they're part of these larger conglomerates that have so many other streams of businesses. NBC like is not relying on Hulu to keep the lights on, right? But yeah, it was probably smarter to make sure that all streams of business were profitable. So I wonder, I don't know, honestly. I'm not going to look into Hulu's financials because you told me that I hit my cap on things that I want to look up. But if I didn't hit that cap, I would go see what year Hulu started turning profit. But anyway, so someone else do that and DM us, CargoCult Pod on all platforms. We haven't posted anything yet, but we will soon, I swear. So yeah, by 2010, Netflix had almost as many subscribers as Comcast. 2010 is also the year that Netflix closes this $800 million deal with Lionsgate, Paramount, MGM. Right, this is before Amazon bought MGM, obviously. This is like the talk of the town in the media industry, this $800 million deal with Netflix, because it's actors and directors everywhere. And by everywhere, I mean in all different parts of North Hollywood. We're like
some even in West Hollywood.
I don't even know if that's the right thing to say. North Hollywood, is that where they live? They're like, do we need to start thinking about Netflix residuals? Like, do we need to start thinking about Netflix in terms of how we're being compensated? Maybe I need to start taking Netflix seriously.
We're here. And that's why... Okay, you have the 0% interest rates. Basically, you can borrow money with basically no cost to pay it back. That creates a business incentive, or actually no business incentive. It allows companies to spend big just to control markets and not necessarily turn a profit. And then later, in 2022, you start to see that kind of spigot turn off. Netflix is no longer able to pour money into things. It starts cracking down on password sharing. It starts thinking about ads.
But yeah, you kind of see Netflix scrambling now. In April of 2022, they lost 200,000 subscribers. And that was their first huge loss in over a decade. You saw the stock drop about 70%, and their market valuation tanked as well, from $300 billion to under $90 billion in less than a year. And that was 2022. Let me see what their market valuation is now. Can I please look one thing up?
192
Okay,
billion.
so
they're back up there.
They're back up.
They're close to Shell. They're valued higher than Raytheon right now. So the people who are valuing companies definitely think like Netflix is a real company that will, make a profit and will be able to, sustain itself over the long term.
I mean, it's no faker than any other publicly traded company, though.
They're all fake.
I mean, they're just all valued on projections.
Fake. We think you're a bunch of fakers.
It's funny, though, but now if you Google, call back, remember our Google episode, guys? Now if you Google, or I'll say rather, now if you do a web search about the fall of Netflix, there is a show called Fall on Netflix. It came out like a couple months ago. This past year, everyone's talking about it. Are we witnessing the fall of Netflix? Netflix's rise and fall. And now when you look up fall of Netflix, it's like how to watch Fall on Netflix in 2023. Fall sequel in the works at Netflix.
Does the Hype House
Netflix's
2 take
fall
over the Hype
ending
House 1?
Oh my God. So we did watch the Hype House, the worst rated show of the year.
Yeah, it was the worst rated show ever on Netflix.
Damn.
And
so we decided to watch that for you guys so we would have something to report about the worst rated show on Netflix.
And it is the most vapid content that has ever been created.
Yeah.
But there's so much
it's a reality
content
show. Yeah.
about TikTok stars who have pretty much no charisma.
It's just a house of teenage men and 2 of their girlfriends. And one trans woman. But it's mostly about a bunch of young men. They live in this giant mansion, and their rent is paid for by the brand deals that they do on the Hype House TikTok account and other social medias. But come on, we know the lion's share is happening on TikTok. We watched the first episode, and the interviews, like the confessionals that they do, are shot in like an abandoned school bus, like completely inexplicably. It's the weirdest thing. But yeah, it's basically about rich teenagers that you watch and you're like, fuck, they have so much money. They have more money than I will ever have. And frankly, who am I to hate on them because they figured something out?
Yeah, we should be following their lead.
My favorite part was one of the boyfriends is like to the girlfriend, he's like, do you want to take the Rolls Royce or the G-Wagon? And she's like, G-Wagon, G-Wagon. And he's like, nah, Rolls Royce.
Yeah, it has something in common with these shows like White Lotus. Like you're just, dangling shiny things in front of people. Like look at the lives of the rich and famous. And
feel like you could,
if you don't have it, it's like, okay, the economy's doing so bad. Everybody's living paycheck to paycheck. What do they want to relax to? They want to vibe out to watching, millionaires and billionaires hang out in an LA house and like talk about how there might be another house that might threaten them.
Yeah. One of them was like, Chase is like breaking away from the Hype House and lives in another house, and he wanted the Hype House to pay his rent, and that's like, I guess, the major conflict in that episode.
Well, yeah, I guess we do get a little peek behind the curtain of the financials of being a TikTok star. But
it is sad. I mean, honestly,
it was really sad. It made me sad.
They're doing better than I ever will financially. Like, I'm not saying, we need to feel bad for them, but to an extent, like, their whole lives are based on just creating content so that brands can advertise their products for them. And they are like nothing but a vessel for these brand deals. I'm not feeling bad for them. They're no coal miners, they're fine.
But
some
of them are like
it's so dystopian, and like it's I'm not like, oh my God, they work so hard, they're so exhausted, but like it is a really sad state of affairs.
The depth of conversation is about what you'd get on Is It Cake? Like, it looks cakeish. It's like the guy's like, I like to put makeup on. Like, that's what men are talking about. Now I sound like a right winger. Like, masculinity
is dying. You write like a Vice article. Like, I watched episode 1 of High Pass. Period. Here's why masculinity is dying in the United States.
Yeah, too many pretty boys.
So yeah, you've got High Pass on Netflix. You've also got that Obama thing.
Yeah.
They had a deal with Obama. What was that about?
$80 million Obama received from Netflix so that he could interview working people, some of whom work for Uber Eats, that, you know, he helped create the gig economy that these people are now enslaved to.
Yeah, and he's like, isn't it great?
Well,
he's like, I helped the banks get even bigger after 2008. You're welcome.
Yeah. No, but he's trying to present himself as like that he has compassion for these working people who are like fucking on their feet.
The gig economy is portrayed negatively?
Yeah.
No, the gall. No fucfucking way he did that.
Yeah,
that is so insulting.
You thought he was going to be
I thought he was like parading around like, look at how great it is to, you know, have the flexibility of working for Uber and not having any benefits. But no, he was negatively portraying the gig economy.
I mean, you thought that he was going to be like ideologically consistent. I mean,
I get, yeah.
What did you expect?
That's on me. I don't know what I expect from a U.S. president.
Yeah, we don't talk about the revolving door between Uber and the Obama administration, not like in the media that we produce.
Like, how great would it be if like one of the workers that he was talking to just looked at him and was like, so
about the drone program.
She's like, so did Citigroup actually pick your cabinet?
Yeah. Yeah, and I bet they were not paid as much as the TikTok stars to appear in a Netflix docuseries.
Oh no, they were not paid at all. They probably got lunch, maybe was provided.
Yeah, well, there's a thing where it's like unethical to pay people if you're filming a documentary, and I was once asked by a certain organization to be part of their documentary, which may or may not be related to Hillary Clinton, and they did not offer me any money to perform my stand-up and have it filmed and be.
Wow.
Yeah, but I also want to talk about the general like content fatigue that everybody is experiencing.
Totally.
Like, I always feel like when I turn on Netflix, like I'm gonna be disturbed. Like, if I get some original content, it's not gonna be fulfilling in any sort of way. It's like, well, we made you feel something and it's bad.
Yeah.
It's usually like, you know, murder, and of course I love some classic true crime.
Okay, I think this says more about your algorithm.
Yeah,
because I'm not getting murder on my
maybe
own
you
page.
Don't live with a significant other, so that explains
so you're
it.
Constantly fantasizing.
But I do
killing.
think like as the content gets shittier and shittier, like our just like lives will. I really do think that marriages will end based on what Netflix is offering.
Yeah.
Just like, oh man, like we have to watch another celebrity like slowly spiral out and then die of a drug overdose. Like
it's only going downhill from here content wise. I mean, then again though, TV's been really good lately, but never on Netflix. Although I did like Beef. But,
and the Black Mirror episode we watched that kind of makes fun of Netflix.
Yeah, it's like about a streaming service that is pretty much Netflix making content that
it even
AI
has like
wrote.
the font of Netflix.
Yeah, no, it's very obviously Netflix, and also Black Mirror is exclusive to Netflix, so that's definitely what it's about. And yeah, it's about AI writing a TV show, and honestly, just watch it. It's really good. I like that, and like every now and then, you know, there is something good on Netflix, but then like that stuff is also swimming in a documentary about Meghan and Harry.
Yeah.
That just paints them as victims.
Yeah.
These poor celebrities with so much money, power, and access. They are the victims.
They were chased in New York City.
Oh my God, yeah, that too. I think
if they were chased in like bumper to bumper traffic, like how is that even possible?
Yeah, but then also, but then everyone came out and said that didn't happen. Everyone but them was like, that's not an accurate depiction of the events.
You could even like
even the
check the traffic that day.
Yeah, exactly. No, they were clearly trying to create some sort of news event that paralleled what happened to Diana. They just want to be
Diana Valor.
Yeah, I mean, they just want to be fucking relevant so bad. But the age of the royals, I mean, I think that's enough, right?
Yeah. No, the Crown is still coming out.
We're good
with
on
stuff.
that.
But you know, I barely talked about the workplace. I think the drama I'd want to see is what's going on in Netflix headquarters, because I mean, the company has this culture, and everybody in Silicon Valley lauds the Netflix model. Like, workers, we're not family, we're team. So like, because a family implies unconditional love, and you're not supposed to support anybody you think is not doing a good job.
No.
So one of the most famous things out of that out of the business model that Reed Hastings published in a book was the keeper test. Like, if this person were to get fired, how hard would you fight for them? If not at all, you got to fire them. So people would get fired at a moment's notice. You were not allowed to talk to the person who was being fired because that would put a target on your back. And one Netflix executive said it was good that people came to work every day fearing that they'd be fired, because fear drives you. And
so true.
Later she said that she didn't make that remark, but she was like, you know, I rethought it and that doesn't sound so good.
Yeah,
I should have consulted PR. Next day she's fired.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the keeper test, that would help make one of my jokes in the top make sense, because I was like, oh, your waiter at the Netflix restaurant, like mid-shift, is fired, so somebody else takes over your table. So when Netflix has a restaurant, like, hi, I'm your new server, Carrie, because your last server, Linda, was shit canned.
Yeah, and then like
Mid-shift.
the next course comes, it's like, hey, I'm your server, Tom.
And then Michael Cera brings the dessert. Damn, they're really pumping money into this restaurant, doing anything so the money goes to somebody other than writers. And then another popular tactic is sunshining at the company, where if you made a mistake, you would have to talk about it in front of all the executives at Netflix.
Oh my God.
And one Korean former employee
activated.
Yeah, one Korean former employee said that in the Singapore office, she was reminded of the culture in North Korea, where mothers had to publicly criticize their sons, supposedly, allegedly. And this is not an audible reaction, but she is burying her head in her hands.
I have a lot of thoughts on that.
But
yeah,
I mean,
also,
I think it speaks
activated.
to something that, like, even the imagined version of North Korea is what the culture of Netflix is actually like.
Yeah.
So that's sunshining.
Yeah. So is that a term that Netflix came up with? I never heard that before.
Reed
Sunshining?
Hastings came up with it. And so when
sounds way better than what it is.
some
Sounds
executives had taken some of her team to get their hair done and bought makeup on the company's dime, Mr. Hastings asked this executive to sunshine what she did in front of dozens of top executives. But she also said, hey, if it were men going out bowling, drinking, and having dinner, that wouldn't be an issue. So it became an equity thing. That bitch knows how to lean in. It wasn't embezzling. Look how good I look.
This is a women's issue.
I totally support getting hair and makeup on the Netflix dime. I mean, you're a media company. Everybody's got to look good, even the executives. Another thing that other tech companies look at Netflix and say, damn, they're doing this so well, is transparency, supposedly. In the golden age years, you know, when they're pumping out all this content, zero interest money, they said that you could ask executives any kind of question, and they had like a live open Google Doc where you could ask executives certain questions, and then people had some problems with the content. mostly things that were offensive to trans people, not only Chappelle's comedy specials, but also some movies that came out.
Anything
and they
from
were,
the 90s.
Yeah, anything from the 90s. So some employees would be like, well, what's your line between entertainment and hate speech?
Right.
And okay, I might not agree on every point of criticism of Chappelle, but I do think like employees should be able to voice their dissent, and they immediately fired a lot of people following the trans workers walk out after the Dave Chappelle specials. You know, comedy specials are a really cheap thing to produce. It's cheaper than a movie. You have more eyeballs on it. And yeah, 30 million to Dave Chappelle, that's not that much money when you think about 200 million going to the gray man.
Yeah.
The Ryan Gosling CIA film. But so it's interesting that Black Mirror started out with her firing somebody and then getting fired herself, because that's something that would happen
on Netflix.
So if you were a manager who didn't fire somebody quickly enough, you also had your head on the chopping block. Everything Netflix is about could be explained in that Black Mirror episode, I think. The episode called Joan is Awful. Basically, it starts with an executive.
She fires somebody, then she goes about the rest of her day. So she goes to her therapist's office. She meets up with her old ex-lover. We find out that she's married. They get home. They have their regular, normal, normal couple evening. And then they decide to wind down by watching some Streamberry.
They start, Streamberry and chill. It's that time of the night.
And as they turn it on, they get to the Netflix homepage and they see that the homepage has something called Joan is Awful. Oh, her name is Joan. Forgot to mention. So Joan sees a show called Joan is Awful, and it has someone who's wearing what she wore that day at the office in the episode.
Has her same hair, but only difference is it's Salma Hayek instead of her. And she's like, what the fuck is this? My name is Joan. And her husband's like, let's just see what it is. Like, I start watching it, and it's basically a replay of her day. So you see her fire someone, then you see her go to the therapist, and then she kind of realizes that you're about to see her go cheat on her husband. And she's like, can we turn this off? And the husband's like, what the fuck? He leaves in a rage. She's also, one part where she was like complaining that her husband's food was bland, even though his name is Krish and he's Indian. I'm like, oh, okay. Way to make things interesting.
And she's white. Yeah. So before the reveal that she's cheating, we have the even bigger betrayal of her not liking his cooking. And that's what starts to get him a little pissed off. And then he finds out she's cheating. He leaves in a rage. She's like, no, please stop.
It's just a TV show.
Yeah, I didn't really do that. And he's like, let me see your phone. And she's like, it's inside. And he leaves. And then she goes back inside, and the show's still going. And you see the TV her chase the husband. The husband gets in the car. He's like, let me see your phone. She's like, no, it's inside. So you get it. It's like following her around.
With like a little added text, as if it's...
Yeah, it's like a dramatized version of what happens. And the lines are like a little bit more cartoonish, I would say.
Yeah.
In the Streamberry version of her reality. So she's like, what the fuck? Next day she goes into work. Obviously, everyone's looking at her because they all saw this new show on Streamberry. And her assistant's like, yeah, so you're fired.
You're fired. Basically, what we saw on Joan is Awful showed that you had like...
You violated your NDA. And she's like, that wasn't me.
NDA.
That was Salma Hayek.
Oh, too bad. You gotta go.
So she gets fired, and she, I guess, falls back into the arms of her ex-lover, the one that she was cheating with. And they start hooking up, and then he's kind of like, I feel weird about this because, like, is this going to be on TV? Like, I'm trying to think.
And then she starts to try to figure out, how can I end this?
Right.
And basically,
so
what
first
she
goes
doesn't
the
know
legal route.
She's like, I'm talking to my lawyers. I'm trying to figure out. But it's like, you signed all the terms and conditions for all of the devices in your apartment. So they have all that information.
So basically, she finds out that this is an AI created show, and the data is being captured from all of her devices in her apartment, and she agreed to it. And there's a scene with the lawyer where the lawyer's like, I hate to put it this way, but like, it's pretty airtight. There's nothing you can do. they got your ass.
I guess we have to read the terms and conditions going forward.
Streamberry has you. She's like, okay, there's no legal recourse for me. Let me see how I can do this another way. So she tries to end the show by doing like the least advertiser friendly behavior. So she like
dresses up as a cheerleader, drinks a bunch of laxatives, and takes a giant dump in the middle of a wedding in a church.
Like as they're saying their vows. She's like, nice. Salma Hayek's going to hate this. The show's going to end because Salma Hayek would never sign away the rights to have her face be used in this manner. Little does she know, Salma Hayek also has no legal recourse. So then it cuts to Salma Hayek in the room with her lawyer, and the lawyer's like, sorry, you signed on all of this.
And then she's like, how could you desecrate the church? My grandma is a nun and she's gonna die when she sees this. And they're also like, you didn't read the contract. And she's like, I'm dyslexic.
Oh, I missed that.
She's
That's
like,
funny.
I'm a dyslexic foreign comedian with questionable English.
That's
like,
really funny.
What do you expect from me?
Right.
Well,
So Salma Hayek goes to Joan's apartment and they're both like, we got to stop this. Neither of them want the show to continue. They're both pissed. So they concoct this plan to go to Streamberry's server room and like take it down by force. Finally, they're in the server room. Like literally, she has like a sledgehammer. She has something. She's literally raising it, about to destroy it. And then like the Streamberry exec runs in and she's like, no, don't do it. If you do that, like you're going to be killing like all these versions of people. It's so convoluted at the
end. But yeah, I think
but the basic concept for the show is good, which is that like, you know, this company has all your data.
Well, yeah, it's just so convoluted. Like
basically, like the executive explains that like you're actually not even Joan. The real Joan is a regular person.
I feel like that we don't need to talk about the end.
Oh, okay, yeah, go watch it to find out the end.
No,
we're doing this. This whole episode is an ad for Netflix.
No, I think it's just the original concept is like kind of a mirror on Netflix.
Yeah, and you know what? We can frame it this way. We can say that we're not spoiling it for you. They put a pretty bow on it and it ends happy and everyone lives happily ever after. They destroy the servers and they're back to reality and now life is good again. I think it should have ended in a way where it's like you really have no recourse and this corporation's power is so much larger than yours that she now has to live in this forever. Mm-hmm. And it's more of a depressing ending, but I think it's more eerie, and I would have liked that.
Yeah, I would have liked that too.
I would have had more of like a punchy ending.
I wanted
to be
see Salma Hayek suffer more.
But
what I want to know,
yeah,
is it cake?